Hey everyone, welcome. We're just going to give it another minute or two for some others to trickle in and join the meeting, so hang tight and we'll begin shortly. All right, for those who are just joining, we're going to give it another minute for some others to join the webinar, and we'll get started in just a second here. All right, we'll get started here. Hey everyone, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today. Quick housekeeping before we get into things. Today's session is going to be recorded, so we'll be sending this to everyone after we wrap up, so no need to take screenshots of anything. Please drop any questions that you have in the Q&A panel as we go, and we'll get to as many as we can towards the end of the webinar. We also have a couple of polls lined up throughout the next 45 minutes here or so keep an eye out on those. And with that said, let's get started and we'll go over the presenters today. So first off, my name is Eric Roberts. I am a Senior Solutions Engineer at Instinct. I'm also a licensed veterinary technician by trade. Before I was doing software demos, I was in the treatment room, and the one thing that was true in every practice I worked at was that you always spent a chunk of time at the beginning of your shifts or before an appointment just trying to gather context. Digging through records, hunting down referral letters, trying to piece together what happened at the last visit. And that's what today is all about. We're really excited to show you what we've built here at Instinct to help with all of that. I have two co-presenters with me, Shay and Courtney. Shay, would you like to introduce yourself?
Happy to. Thank you, Eric. It's nice to meet everyone. My name is Shay. I'm a customer success manager at Instinct. And prior to being at Instinct, I spent about 15 years in the vet med industry and 12 years specifically in orthopedic specialty. Used Instinct EMR firsthand for about 2 years before joining their team. And I've lived the problem that Eric just described. I now work directly with practices to help get them the most out of Instinct, and I'll be adding some real world context throughout this demo.
Thanks,
and then
Shay.
Courtney's up next.
Yeah, hey, I am Courtney. I'm a senior product manager here at Instinct. I have been with Instinct for over 8 years, so I've got to see it grow quite a bit over the last almost decade. And then I've been in the vet industry for more than 12 years as well. I was previously with vet medics. And so I get to work closely every day with our customers and help build things that better support the incredible work that you guys do every single day in practice. And we use all of the feedback that you give us to help shape the future of our EMR for every aspect of the practice. So for practice managers and veterinarians and technicians and all of the different wonderful jobs that you guys do. And so I'm excited to spend some time with you guys today and show and share some of the things that we've been building to better support you.
Awesome, thank you both. So here's the agenda. We're going to start with the problem. So specifically where all of that clinical time actually goes, why getting the right information takes longer than it should. And from there, we'll talk briefly about how Instinct's AI features work and what makes them different from generic AI tools that you might have tried. Then we'll get into the demos, which is really the meat of today. We'll be showing document summary, we'll be showing ask, and then we'll take a quick look at our new universal search. We'll close things out with Courtney walking us through what's coming next, and then we'll open it up for a Q&A session at the end. So let's get into it. All right, before we do though, we have a quick poll. Shay, would you like to take the poll?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're just going to start with a question to kind of help see where everybody's at in practice and what kind of leaves your day and becomes the biggest drain. So if you could answer what your team's biggest time drain before or during an appointment is, that would be great. And then we'll go over the answers. So options are reviewing patient history in the chart, shift handoffs and getting up to speed on inpatients, reading through referral records or outside documents, finding a specific patient document or record quickly, or all of the above, which is a great option as well. So we're going to take a second, let everybody kind of pick their primary pain point during the day that your staff deals with. And then once we do that, we'll go over the results and then talk from there. So I'll give everybody just a couple of seconds to choose what we've got going on. Do that. Great. All right, guys, we're going to move on to the results if you haven't had a chance. Perfect. So taking a look at this, that's all the above. I was going to say that this seems to be the best answer across the board. So all of those things really do take time out of your day to go to different resources, different places. And our goal is to collectively do all of that within Instinct that makes your staff more efficient and makes your day more productive. So we're going to start with the demos of that, and I'm going to pass it back to Eric so he can go through that with you guys.
Wonderful. Thanks, Shay. Yep, before the demo, we have, I think, 2 or 3 really quick slides. So the first thing that we're going to go over here is the context gap, right? So we want to get specific as far as where that time actually goes. And I don't want to just like wave my hand and say AI saves time. I want to talk about some real scenarios. And the biggest one is obviously getting up to speed on a patient. So even in your own system, if a patient's been coming in for years, that chart, that medical record, it gets really long. Even in a GP setting during a busy exam day, you don't have a full hour to scroll through every single visit, look at every single lab. You need that relevant history and you need it fast. So same story with shift handoffs, especially for overnights, ER specialty centers and hospitals. You've got a full board of inpatients, you're getting handed off. You need to know what's changed, what the plan is, what to watch out for, any specific patient alerts, and you need that really quickly. There's not really enough time to read through every single note from that previous shift. And then there's everything that comes from outside the system. It could be referral records for especially an emergency hospital. For GP, it could be records from a previous veterinarian. Maybe the client just moved to the area and they want to get established and you want to get up to speed on their patient history. Either way, there's a PDF attached to the record. It could be 72 pages, it could be 200 pages. You've got 5 minutes before the appointment starts, and you're just not reading the whole thing. You're essentially skimming it. You're hoping to catch everything that's important. And honestly, it's a really stressful way to start the case. And then there's just finding things, right? Maybe you're mid-appointment and you need to pull a specific lab result or a document really fast, but unfortunately, it's buried somewhere in that chart. Or you want to quickly pull a list of patients with a specific active problem, a specific diagnosis. None of that should take as long as it does. Now, in real world, there are some workarounds. Practices have come up with these, whether it's a printed summary, right, whiteboards, shared chat threads. None of these, though, are typically connected to the actual patient record. So there's always that gap between the tool and the data that you're looking for. Some practices have started experimenting with generic AI tools, ChatGPT, Copilot, to name a few. Those are really impressive in a lot of contexts, but in a clinical setting, they've got some real problems, right? They don't have access to your patient's data. They weren't trained in a veterinary medicine, specifically. A workup for a dog is very different than a workup for a human. And you can't really verify those answers, right? There's no source, there's no citation. You're just kind of blindly trusting it. And that's really not acceptable when you're making those types of clinical decisions. And that's the gap that we are setting out to close here. All right, last slide before we jump into the demo. We're going to show you 3 different things today: document summary, ask, and then our new universal search. And a quick note on ask, you may see it labeled as assistant inside of Instinct EMR today. That is going to be updated soon. So we're going to be referring to it as ask throughout the webinar today. All 3 of these things are directly built into Instinct, right? So there's nothing that you have to log into separately. There's nothing new to learn. There's not another tab or a pop-up or anything like that. The goal is speed to insight, right? We want to get that full picture in just a few seconds, not 10, 15, 20 minutes. We want to use that clinical context that's already in the EMR to pull that information forward. So there's no hunting and there's no tap switching to find that information. There's two things that I would love all of you to walk away with here. First is the document summary and ask. Everything is going to be source linked, meaning every single finding is backed by where it came from within that patient record or the document. So you can verify anything in just one click. Second, the document summary and ask are opt-in and they're admin controlled. It's built on enterprise-grade functionality and infrastructure, and these are AI-powered features built specifically for the EMR workflow. And just remember, it's not a generic AI that's been adapted from human medicine and bolted on. So with that said, I am going to jump into sharing my screen. We're going to log into Instinct EMR. So for those that are maybe are not familiar with Instinct EMR, this is the login screen. I'm going to enter in my 4-digit PIN. We'll go to our status board here, and I'm going to be working with Ginger Ale O'Brien here today. And again, for those that may not be familiar with Instinct, I am in Ginger Ale's medical record. Usually I say, anytime you see this left sidebar here with the patient's picture and the blue bar here, this means I'm in their record. So kind of going from right to left, I can look at that patient's invoice. We have estimates. We have a really cool digital anesthesia sheet. We have vitals tracking, which is all within the program, all within that patient's medical record. Our lovely digital treatment sheet and a comfortable 24-hour view. And then finally, we have our charting. So this is where all the medical records are going to live. We have our master problem list at the top here, different patients that might be in the account. So we have Ginger Ale and Dr. Pepper. Down here is where we have our non-visit documents. So if you are an ER specialty center, maybe you've never seen Ginger Ale before, but you have the referring vet records, you can attach them here. If you're a general practice hospital and there's a new owner that just moved to town, you have their records, but you have yet to see them. This is where those records could be stored here. And then down below, this orange box signifies the current visit. So Ginger Ale is here for a biometer today. We have a SOAP form. We have an IDEX test that's already been run. Again, this is that main patient chart screen here. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at what we call analyze. And one thing to kind of call out too, that referral intake it's just a real time cost, right? We've had practices tell us it takes anywhere from 10, 15, 20 minutes per case just on the read portion of it before that patient is ever seen. So what we're trying to accomplish here is a way for you to get that information at your fingertips really quickly and really easily. So I clicked on Analyze here within Ginger Ale's record. You'll see coming soon, we have anesthesia prep and a patient story. We're going to be focused on the document summary. So the old workflow, right? We skim those records. We hope to catch what matters. But with document summary, we can just ask it to summarize everything here. What we're looking at are the sources. We have some records that were uploaded. I can check them off or on if I want to include that in my summary. I can click on this eyeball icon here, which will have a little screen, a pop-up here, an image carousel, where I can look at all of the medical records that were uploaded. And then all I'd want to do is click generate or regenerate. So I already generated the summary initially earlier today, so that's why it says regenerate. But we do allow different formats here that's based on your personal preference. So problem focused, we could do chronological. You can also add additional instructions here. Say you want to point the agent in a specific direction based on your own personal preferences. You can over communicate that here within the additional instructions. Once we generate that summary, that'll be displayed over here. We try to display in a really easy to read format, categorized and bullet point format. So I can scroll down and look at all that information in a really quick bullet point format here. Now, one thing that we really pride ourselves on is making sure that anywhere we pull this information, we want to have a reference, a resource, a citation, because we want to make sure whoever's reading this can dig in a little bit deeper if they maybe don't believe what's being shown here, or they want to just do some additional research. So I can toggle on the show citations button here. And what that's doing is it's calling out where we're pulling all of that information. So whether it's a vaccine status, whether it's a specific diagnostic indicator, maybe I'm coming down here and that BUN looks pretty high. Is it really that high? Let me dig in a little bit more. I can click on this button and we bring you directly to that source of where we're pulling out the information. So I can see the BUN is here. It is in fact pretty high. I can look at some other laboratory results here if I wanted to, but really important to have those citations handy for you. So again, all of this is going to be pulling, the chief complaints, relevant history, meds, reason for the referral, and every one of these findings is going to have that reference back to the source page. So you can verify it yourself. And keep in mind, this is all within the system. So you're not leaving Instinct EMR to look at any other screens or any other information. All right, the other thing at the bottom of the screen here, I can copy this document summary. If I wanted to paste it somewhere, I could email it to an owner, I could email it to a referring vet hospital. I could also print this out if I wanted to, and I could, share it with anyone else. So a couple different options towards the bottom of that screen. But one thing that you guys are probably wondering right now is, I want to be able to interact with this. I see the data here, but I have some questions. I have some follow-up. I want to ask it some questions. So that is where Ask will come into play. And as I mentioned earlier, we are rebranding that. Right now it's called Assistant, but this will be kind of moved to being Ask in the very near future here. I'll open up my Assistant, and we have a couple different options here. So, when would you want to use Ask? This will surface that clinical context directly into the EMR in just a few seconds. So patient history, visit overviews, record summaries without leaving that workflow. You don't have to dig through charts. I don't have to switch from tab to tab. And again, every answer is going to be scoped to this specific patient. Two things to kind of call out here real quick. We have the patient chart and the visit options here. Patient chart is going to pull any uploaded documents like those referral records or the records from a previous veterinarian, for example, where the visit lets you focus on specific appointment information. So if you want to dig into what happened during a particular visit or a stay, you can scope it right here. You can use some of the suggested prompts that we have to get started, or you can type in your own question. And the first use case I'll go over is, maybe we're a GP hospital, we haven't seen this patient in a year, 2 years, and I just really want to get up to speed fast. And instead of scrolling through different chart screens, I can just ask. So I'm going to use this one here. Give me an overview of the patient's known history. All right, this will just take a second here. And what you're going to be seeing when I expand this is the raw clinical data that we're pulling directly from Instinct EMR. So just know that this is not some sort of generic response. It is scoped entirely to this patient. And because it's pulling directly from records already in Instinct, you can trust what you're reading and you can use it to make your own call. So for here, I can scroll down some important patient information, the client details here, active problems, meds, history. What I really love is the vaccine history down here. So if something is overdue, yes, I can see that in the record, but by using our Ask and the Assistant, I can call that really quickly and see exactly what they're going to be overdue for. Now, say I want to ask some additional questions with this. I want to have a follow-up question. Maybe it's what prescriptions, was this patient prescribed? So what prescriptions was this patient prescribed? So just take a second here. We will extract that information directly from Instinct EMR. So we have Serenia. And again, the other thing with this is you can always open up our prescription panel. Here's where we have that Serenia prescription. But the idea by using Ask is I can use it just as a communication tool, ask my follow-up questions, and we're going to pull that data directly from Instinct. Now, again, this is for the patient chart. So we're looking at the patient summary here. If we want to use a different use case, maybe we want to look at a specific visit, for example. So I'll come back to my new, we'll go to visit. And one common scenario I see is maybe it's like a shift, it's a handoff, right? I'm just, clocking in the evening or the late afternoon. I want to know, what's happened so far. What did that other doctor do? What did they prescribe? What kind of diagnostics might have been run? I do have a question here where I can just summarize the current visit for that handoff. So I'll click on this here. Same idea as the patient lookup here. I can expand this to get my summary handling, will bite, caution. That's something very important I want to know before I open that cage door and start working with ginger ale. I can see my admission overview information in here, any active treatments. I can also expand this panel to take advantage of some different real estate on the screen size. So I can keep it minimized. I can expand it a little bit. The other thing for those who may not be familiar with Instinct EMR, you can pin this panel. So that allows me to freely navigate throughout the system without losing my space here on the right sidebar. So if I want to look at my treatment sheet, maybe I want to look at my vitals as well by looking at this history, I can see both of these side by side. All right, and maybe I want to do a follow-up question here. Maybe I want to know what diagnostics might have been ordered. So were any, you can test my typing in front of a crowd, diagnostics ordered. So similar idea, all of this is already in that patient's medical record, but I can continue that conversation with Ask, and it's going to tell me, yeah, we had a CBC Chem Lights that was ordered earlier today. How about any medications? You know, what medications were prescribed? I can pull up that information. And the one thing I want to call out here is down at the bottom. Well, I guess first we'll look at the buprenorphine. We have that which was administered here. Any different treatments are going to be listed in this section. Down at the bottom here, I can choose to kind of go back to my chart summarizer if I want, or keep it with the visit. I can also toggle different visits. So right now we're looking at this pyometra visit. You can tell Ginger Ale is a frequent flyer. She has some urinary issues. This is a demo account, but if I wanted to pivot and ask about a different visit, I could always select it here from that drop-down section. All right, so that's a quick overview of our document summary and the ask. I'm going to pass it over to Shay now to go over our new universal search.
Great. Thank you, Eric. I appreciate it. So we're going to dive into universal search, which is something that is very close to my heart, coming from front desk and then management. And in a lot of the software systems that I've used, trying to find the information that I need quickly to do my job has always been a challenge. So universal search is a way that you can find an invoice for a client standing at the front desk quickly. Sometimes you previously have to have 3 screens deep while you're trying to search information, clicking between tabs. And we've all seen the tab abusers that have 15 to 20 different tabs at the top that we're trying to figure out information that we need. So universal search is one box to find anything across Instinct. And we're going to go through a demo of what that looks like now. Bear with me while I share my screen. Perfect. So I'm going to log into the app that I have available, and we're going to use Buddy. Buddy is my personal pet, and he loves Cinco de Mayo, clearly. But you'll see the same information here that you saw on Eric's screen, so your charts, your vitals, your AX mode, and estimates. For search, you can access search through Command or Control K. And this is going to be the box that pulls up and shows you the one location that you can have to search across Instinct. So we're going to start with Buddy specifically and search him across the page. You'll notice here there's a couple of different ways that we can filter it. These are all the options that you will have to search across Instinct. So we can search pages within admin sections. We can search anything on the left-hand side. So if you're looking for anything to do with estimates or products, you can search that as well. Patients, we've got Buddy here pulled right at the top, and it's going to surface him directly. From this box here as well, you can do so much with just the search box. You can go navigate directly to the chart by just clicking a quick link. You can pin this patient to your My Board, which is a status board that allows you to pin patients that if you need to leave really quickly and come back, it'll give you a list of patients that you need to still follow up on. And then you can click this 3-dot menu here, which gives you a lot more options to check them in, check them out. You can schedule appointments for here. You can mark them ready to go, edit any information directly from this window pane. And previously, you would have to do that in 3 or 4 different locations to manage that information. The other thing that you can do is you can search by client phone number. And this is really great because not only is it going to surface your contact information or your account as the primary account when you type in a phone number, it also will allow you to enter in a secondary phone number and have it find the account. This is really wonderful for when you have those clients call in and they have it under one name, but there's a secondary name. Searching by phone number is a very quick and easy way to find the account information that your staff needs to get to quickly. It also will pull up any information here on the right-hand side that it will show account alerts immediately. This is great for any account that you have that has an unpaid invoice or an overdue balance, or any alert that you set to the client will automatically be surfaced here when you're searching the client information. So moving on from that, you can type in keywords as well. So not only can you do phone numbers, you can do keywords as well. So if we type in billing is going to pull up different ways in Instinct that you can manage your hospital. And so if we look at billing and we type on accounts, it's going to take us to our account list of patients. If we click on invoice tags, that's going to take us to our admin section where we can manage invoice tags. And so this is just a direct way in Instinct to get to the location of keywords that you need to find as well. The other big thing that I would like to call out too is that Instinct now has a practice library. And so that practice library allows you to enter in documents for your staff that you can view clinical protocols, staff procedures, reference materials, and training and onboarding documentation. When I was in practice, and some practices still have 3-ring binders at different locations throughout the hospital. You'll have your front desk 3-ring binder of all your SOPs, and then your treatment 3-ring binder of all SOPs. You can now organize that in a single location within your practice management software system. And you can search it through the universal search. So we're going to look up Instinct SOP, ER, and Specialty. And once we click on that, it will take us directly to the document and allow us to open up that PDF to access the information or the SOP that we need to find immediately. No more running around to try and find your 3-ring binder or getting questions that can easily be answered through your practice management software system. Also, with this new universal search, it is going to track your history of the things that you have been searching. So when you go back into the search, it will show you all of your recent information. And this is really great when you're searching for patients and you get, as happens often, called away to answer another phone call, to manage a treatment for a patient, and you were in the middle of doing three things in your practice management software system. And as time goes by, sometimes you forget exactly who you were working on and when. So now when you navigate back to your universal search, it is going to hold all of the information that you previously searched for. So that is universal search. Unlike our AI features, it's built on the keywords that I mentioned specifically, but we're building it alongside those AI tools because it solves the same core problem. So you need fast access to information for time crunch staff. And this is one of those things that sounds small until you watch a busy front desk use it, pulling up patient from a phone number in 2 seconds instead of flipping through the schedule to find the next appointment adds up over a shift. So that's Ask, Document Summary, and Search as they exist today. Before we get into next steps, Courtney from our product team is going to talk about where this is headed and next steps.
Great. Thank you, Shay. All right. So I will keep this quick. As I mentioned earlier, I'm a product manager here at Instinct. I get to work on all of the fun features that we get to create for you guys and our software in general. So we get to dive into the problems and figure out ways to help you work more efficiently and just support you better along the way. So today I want to show you where Instinct's headed with AI and more importantly, why we're headed there. So we get to spend a lot of times talking to veterinary teams, talking to our customers, asking how they work, what their workflows are like, what problems they come across. And one of the clearest problems we've uncovered is not that the information that they need is missing, it's that it's spread across so many different places. It's spread across different documents, different visits, different areas of the patient record, could even be on paper somewhere because it's never made it into the EMR. And it leaves your team to piece together the full story yourselves when you don't have that kind of time. In fact, we ran a survey and we found that more than half of veterinarians told us that they regularly have to search across multiple places just to piece together the patient's story. And 4 out of every 10 spend at least 15 minutes doing that for every single visit. And over 2/3 told us that they regularly finish their documentation after hours. When you multiply that across every single patient and every single shift, that's a significant amount of time that you're spending looking for information instead of caring for patients which is why you got into practice in the first place, right? I don't think it's because you had a passion for documentation. Maybe, but I don't think so. So that's exactly the problem that we're trying to solve with Ask. So what you saw today in the demos is a conversational way to get answers from information that's already inside of your EMR. We already hold all of that data. Let us make that easy to surface for you. So rather than opening several documents, reviewing multiple visits to build that patient story yourself for every single appointment, you can simply just ask a question and quickly get the relevant context, as you saw Eric demo. And just as importantly, every answer is cited back to the source material in the medical record. So it's not intended ever to replace your clinical judgment. It is just there to help you find and understand information faster while giving you transparency and context to help you make decisions with confidence. Today, Ask can answer questions about things like documents and visits and patient summaries and generate those for you. And we launched this version a few months ago, but we see it as the beginning of something much broader that we're just getting started on. You also saw Shay demo search. And in the coming months, Ask is going to live alongside search at the top of the EMR. So it's always easy to get to, and it'll create one consistent place to find all of the information that you need. Sometimes you know exactly what you're looking for, like the patient phone number, as Shay showed us, or a specific document or microchip number. That's going to be when you use search. Other times you need us to connect the dots for you. And that's things like summarizing a patient history, helping you understand what happened during previous visits, or answering questions like, has this patient ever received X treatment? And that's where Ask comes in. So bringing those experiences together just means users won't have to think about where the information lives in the EMR. They can just simply start with what they know, ask the question in search, and get it immediately. Looking further ahead, we envision Ask becoming something that supports questions across the entire practice, not just the clinical record. So right now, as I mentioned, we have clinical questions like, have they ever received this treatment, this medication? What alerts do they have on their record? But we also want to broaden this to include operational and business questions like, how many patients did we see last month compared to the month before? How are our visits trending month over month? How is our revenue trending this quarter? Or anything like, do we have any open 1 hour appointment blocks next week? Maybe, as Shay mentioned, you're doing 3 things at the front desk and you just need to quickly know if there's a 1 hour appointment block. Those are things that Ask will begin to be able to answer for you. So whether you're caring for patients or you're managing schedules or reviewing financial performance or making decisions about the practice, or maybe you're doing all of those things. But our goal is the same, is that's to make information that's already inside the EMR easier to access, understand, and then for you to be able to act on. Ask is the first piece of a broader set of AI tools that we're building directly inside of Instinct, so more to come. But each one is focused on the same outcome, which is reducing the time that your team and yourself has to spend hunting and piecing together information yourself so that you can actually spend time caring for patients. So we are excited in future webinars to show what we're building and continue to share what's ahead as these capabilities grow. But I wanted to give you a sneak peek today of just kind of where we're headed with AI in general and Instinct. Thank you for letting me share with you today, Eric. I'll kick it back to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Courtney. All right. So just to recap, we walked through 3 different things today. The document summary, a quick and easy way to get a structured summary of outside records and referral documents without reading through every single page. We have Ask, which is a conversational way to get that clinical context from your patient's chart in just a few seconds. And then Universal Search, a really fast way to find literally anything across Instinct, anywhere within the app. So whether that's a patient, a document, a specific page, a list of patients by active problem. So if any of this resonates with some of the problems that you and your teams are facing and dealing with today, here's what we can do next. If you're already an Instinct customer, please feel free to reach out to your customer success manager about getting access to these amazing features. If you're not yet on Instinct and you want to see a personalized demonstration, there's going to be a link in the chat to schedule one directly. We're also going to be following up with everyone who RSVP'd with a recording of the meeting, with the slides, some additional resources. But before we open it up to questions, the Q&A portion at the very end, I believe we have one last poll to go through. Let's see. There we go. Okay, so here's the last poll. We'll give this just a second here. If you guys are not aware, Instinct acquired ScribbleVet earlier this year. We also acquired Plumbs and Standards of Care a few years ago. So if anyone has any specific products that you'd like to learn a little bit more about, please feel free to check the box here. And then in just a second, we will be answering some of the questions that are going through the chat here. All right, so it looks like we have one question here. How does Instinct, let's see, how does Instinct make sure the AI answers are accurate? All right, so both Ask and the document summary, they surface that information directly from the patient's record. So again, we're not looking at anything that's like outside of the EMR. And as we showed with the document summary, everything is gonna be sourced and cited with where we're pulling that information. So you can click on that little hyperlink, it'll open up the attached document. It'll bring you directly to that page that we're pulling the data from. So again, that helps a lot for like shift handoffs, if this is a new patient and you wanna get up to speed really quickly. So that's how we know we're kind of pulling that data directly from the data that we're looking at. That makes sense to make sure everything is gonna be accurate. Let's see, a couple other questions here. So can the document summary work on any file type, or is it just PDFs? Right now, the document summary is looking at just PDFs. I know we're working on expanding that. But for example, if you have a Word document and you want to upload it, you can always convert it to a PDF. You can also use that for a Excel sheet or a spreadsheet, something like that. You can always convert it over to a PDF and then upload it to the document summary that way. Is it available on mobile devices? So Instinct does work on a 12-inch screen or larger. So we recommend a 12-inch device. So some of the larger iPads and tablets, you can use them on Chromebooks. You can use it on touchscreen compatible devices as well. As a technician, I'm not a huge fan of the touchscreen just because I don't like the smudges. And then if I'm in isolation and I have gloves on, that's usually a little bit of friction point there. But yep, you can use it on mobile devices. We just recommend a 12-inch screen or larger. Let's see, another question. Can I copy or share an AI generated summary? Yep, you can. So at the bottom of the screen, you do have the option to copy it. You could then paste it. Within Instinct, we have email capability. So you could email it to an owner. You could email it to a referring hospital. You can also print it out if you wanted to have a physical copy of it. Another question here. Does Ask work for general practice or mainly ER specialty? So it works for both. So the document summary, all the AI tools, that is available for all Instinct hospitals, all Instinct customers. Doesn't matter if you're GP, ER specialty, mobile, anything like that. All right, another one about the search. Does that universal search replace the existing search? So you're right, there is an existing search right now. It's kind of more of a basic search. The universal search, right now you have two options. You can kind of toggle back and forth. You can use like the older search, or you can use the newer search. Right now you have both of those options. In the future, we'll likely be phasing out the older search just because the universal one is, it just captures more data and you can find the same answers with the universal search that you would with the older search. Will Ask search the treatment board? Yes, it will. So in my example that I showed, I think I gave ginger ale a buprenorphine example, and I asked it, like what medications has this patient received so far? And it definitely called out that buprenorphine that was ordered and completed earlier today. So it will definitely look at the treatment board. And again, just to clarify, there's the patient summary and then there's the visit summary. So the patient summary encompasses all that patient details. But if I want to drill down to specifics as far as a visit, what was included at that time, the treatments that were done, maybe prescriptions that were sent home, all that would be under that visit section of the Ask functionality. And then, yeah, so we are looking to expand the types of records that we're looking for, the chart summarizer for the records, record review document summary. We can see all of those chart documents, anything that's uploaded as a PDF, and then very soon we'll actually be looking at some of the SOAP information, some of the finding fields that are typed directly into Instinct. So that will definitely be expanding.
Yeah, and then I can jump in, Eric, just real quick. I know there was a question about can it trend lab results, and that is something that it cannot do yet, but that is something that I alluded to of like some other fun things that we were working on, and improving our lab trending with our AI functionality is something that we're actively looking at. So stay tuned for future webinars for sneak peeks on that. That's not included in this part, but is something that we're thinking about and wanting to improve for you guys.
Awesome. Thanks, Courtney. All right, let's see. One last question here. So how does the pricing work, right? Is all this included in EMR? Is it an add-on? So Instinct's AI features, those are included in some of the Instinct EMR plans. If you're an existing customer right now, I would recommend reaching out to your customer success manager or in the sales team to learn a little bit more about what's included in that plan. But yeah, reach out to the customer success manager if you're not seeing that functionality today. All right, I'm not seeing any new questions. I apologize if I missed any. Shay, Courtney, thank you guys so much. Really appreciate you both being here. Thank you again to everyone who's joined and asked really great questions. As I mentioned earlier, we'll be sending this recording out to everyone who RSVP'd to kind of keep that conversation going. And again, if you want to see a personalized demonstration, there'll be a link in that email where you can connect with our sales team. So thank you again, everyone, for joining. Really appreciate it. And I hope everyone has a great rest of your Tuesday. Thanks, everyone.